A man who needs no introduction gets no introduction. Steve Schmidt, jump in.
Hey, well, Nicole, a couple of things. I mean, the story imploded today like it was a building implosion or a stadium implosion. You were watching on TV, and what happened here is that the FBI came back and they said, hey, the staff secretary, who has a code word SCI, top secret clearance, is credibly accused of beating his two wives. And White House took no action, kept him in place. And so we see a couple things out of this, right? We see the abject incompetence that was described in the Michael Wolff book. We see recklessness around national security issues. Scores of West Wing officials don't have the requisite clearances necessary to see the nation's most closely guarded secrets. We see the usual dishonesty, and it's blowing up in their face. And lastly, we see the cruelty of the press secretary towards these women, of Kellyanne Conway towards these women, of the president of the United States towards these women, and really the whole of the administration towards these women.
Steve, I want you to see if you can come up with any parallel. I reached back through the Palin years, through the Bush years, and we were deeply flawed. We made more mistakes before lunch than most people in normal jobs make in 5 years. But I can't remember the depravity that I see in this White House. And I wonder if you can just talk about how sort of effective it is for them to do such a volume business of chaos and crisis creation.
I think the important thing to understand, to remember for the American people, is that this is not normal. There's never been an administration like this. In fact, when you look out across all the Western democracies, you don't see lying like this. The constancy of lying, the dishonesty, the allegations of conspiracy, the smearing, the defend to the death at all costs, the image and the reputation of the leader who, through his own mistakes, his own actions, of the FBI director, the drafting of the statement, lying about it on Air Force One, the myriad misstatements, the squandering of the moral authority, talking about good Nazis after Charlottesville, the endorsement of a credibly accused pedophile in Alabama. There's never been anything like this. We are in uncharted territory with this comportment, and it's vile. The behavior is disgraceful. It's disgusting. The defiling of the office of President of the United States is something that's going to take that office a fair amount of time to recover from. It will recover, but it won't be easy. And there's going to be a lot of work to do to repair the damage that's inflicted on the country, in my view, by this administration.
Jay Rosen, he's someone I follow on Twitter. I believe he's a journalism professor at NYU, tweeted this week that this actually isn't a White House. It's a workplace with a boss and a bunch of people that work for him. Do you think that there's anything about this White House, other than the immense powers that are still attached to the office of the presidency, does any of this look familiar to you?
No, of course not. And it wouldn't look familiar to anybody who ever served in any administration in the modern era. And here's the reason why. Both parties have elected great presidents and bad presidents. They've elected, both parties, a couple of presidents at existential moments that decided whether the United States of America would survive. We produced the leaders necessary to make sure that it did. But the country has never before now elected somebody who is so manifestly unfit intellectually, morally, temperamentally for the office of President of the United States. And by a very thin margin of 78,000 votes across 3 states, Donald Trump, losing the popular vote by 3 million, pulled the hat trick. And here we are a year later. And what we see is a capitulation by the Republican Party, its leaders, in support of, by any definition, is reckless, aberrant, malfeasant behavior. And there's no public company